First of all, I want to acknowledge that we are on Mohawk territory. It's unceded. This is still their territory. I hate it when people say traditional because it belongs to them now. Second of all, where's that camera? It's right over there. So I just wanted to say one thing really clear to Justin Trudeau. You're a liar. You manipulated our people. You made us believe you were on our side. And you tried to use us to get into that seat. And you're a liar. And it's disrespectful. It's dishonorable. And I hope you can't sleep at night. Yeah. So, I was going to say something else, but my father and my mother raised me better. So I'm going to have a seat and talk because I'm more comfortable like this. Where am I getting that feedback from? Okay, so Christian's given the overview of the gas and oil industry, which most everybody here is pretty well aware of. I'm looking at the faces around, and I know most everybody here. So we understand that it's a foolish way to try and get the economy rolling when all it's doing is destroying the natural resources that are in place. We have many renewable resources that are there and that Gaspegians and other people, coastal people have lived off of for a very, very long time. The Mi'kmaq for thousands of years, and since European arrival for hundreds of years. So it doesn't make any sense to go into places like the Gulf of St. Lawrence and start drilling holes for something that they don't even know they're looking for, because they don't. They just have this estimation of amounts of oil or maybe natural gas. They're not even sure what it is yet. But they're over there, and they're doing something foolish because, in the Gesgapegiag, we have over 20 salmon rivers that go up through there. Our economy is really, really highly based on tourism in the Gesgapegiag, and so is New Brunswick and the other coastal areas. So the salmon that do come up to those rivers, they migrate right through the Gulf of St. Lawrence and up to the Bailoff Strait, all of these places. So if there was a natural catastrophe, that would be it. People from the Madeline Islands, their lives would be over. It would be over. They rely on the fisheries, lobster fishing, crab fishing, anything fishing. Anything fishing for the Madeline Islands. So they're in the tourism. And nobody is going to come visit the shores of the Gaspegiag, the Madeline Islands, the North Shore of Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, if all of the shores are black with oil. Nobody's going. So it doesn't make any sense to go after these resources. When we have resources that are holding us up, we have resources there. Fisheries have been holding our communities together for a long time. And we've had a lot of problems with stocks going down, poor management, but we're finding a way to balance them out. At least we're trying to find a way to balance economic growth and the growth of the populations of fish out there, the species. But nobody wins if we go in there and start drilling oil and it goes everywhere. So it's a foolish thing. But I'm not going to get too deep into the gas and oil thing because I think I'd rather lean more right now to the decolonization that is real popular. These buzzwords that are going around, decolonization, truth and reconciliation, all of this stuff that I think is bullshit, sorry. But truth and reconciliation, first of all, that implies that we had a good relationship at one time. We got into a fight, and now we're trying to work things out and have a better relationship, and fix that. But we have never had a good relationship since Confederation with Canada. It just doesn't exist, it's not there. So the truth behind reconciliation is that the truth is that there was never a good relationship to begin with. Our treaties were signed when the Crown was there. And I think that the Royal Proclamation, I think 1/3 of its contents deals with how to deal with Indigenous people, how to include us. We were here for thousands of years. We weren't discovered. We discovered people that were lost at sea, and we helped them. We helped them get on their feet, and we welcomed them onto our land. We built families with them. We built cultures with them. The Acadians come from there. They're a mix of everything. Other people came in, we welcomed them too. And then as soon as our numbers started to dwindle, they seen the opportunity to take over and step on us after we had helped them out a lot. Now, the problem is, nobody hears that. Nobody hears about those early stories and what really built this country? Who built this country? Whose backs this country was built on? And that's us, Indigenous people out there. Now, you don't hear about it because it's not taught in school. So when you hear the words like decolonization, we're not talking about, all right, we're going to round up all these white folks and send them out of here. It doesn't work. Look, they tried it with the Acadians several times and they keep coming back. So that's not decolonization. What we're talking about when we're talking about decolonization is we're talking mostly about education. For me, decolonization means education. So in order to decolonize this country, we need to educate them about the peoples that were here first, the people that are here now. If you pick up a history book, I can promise you, it's going to talk about us in the past tense. Always like we're gone, we're extinct, we no longer are there. When we sit in the classrooms as Indigenous people and we open these books and the teacher is teaching us that, it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating because it makes us question everything that we're taught at home. Because at home we have our stories, they're shared, they're strong, our culture is rich. But we get into these places who make us feel like we're wrong, and then what happens is we get a failing grade because we tell the truth. We tell the truth behind our own history, our own culture, and the teacher gives you an F. That's not how it worked. That's because it was them who decided that's how it worked. It wasn't the truth. Everything you open in a history book is not the truth, that's perspective. And usually the winning side gets the opportunity to write that perspective down. And so it's unfair. So when we're talking about decolonize, educate. Start from young. Put our stories into those history books from an early age. Let us teach our stories, because it's unfair the way it is right now. I go to high schools and I talk to classrooms, and I've got history teachers that are sitting right next to me when I'm talking to classrooms about our history, and they are flabbergasted, know nothing about what I'm talking about. And I'm not inventing this stuff. I'm handing this stuff down. This stuff is true. You know, if I'm talking about our history on the land, how we've lived off the land, the different methods that we've lived by over the years. And the history teachers that are right next to me who have studied through this colonial system don't know what I'm talking about. So I mean, it really has to start at every level of education. We got to start with the kids that are in school, and we got to start educating the educators on how to educate other children, not just First Nations children, not Indigenous children. You know, everybody has the right to know what happened in the past for this country to be waving its flag around at us, and it's very insulting. You know, it's very, very insulting. You see this flag going around, and everybody gets upset when we protest what it represents. Because for us, it represents something really, really hard to look back at. You know, the stories right now we see with the residential school survivors. This information is going out there like it's brand new. It's ridiculous. People have been thrown into these situations since the mid-1800s. It's 2018, and this is new information. It doesn't make sense. You know, murdered and missing Indigenous women. My God, the numbers are outrageous. How is that right? And how is that new information to people? Decolonize the media. Let them tell our story. You know, it's never a good story unless we're going to jail. It's the only time it's a good story. Decolonization has to happen at so many levels. It's difficult. And decolonization, let me tell you something, it's not just a non-native issue. Okay, it's not just the non-native people that need to decolonize. The Indigenous people need to too. Because we're locked into a reservation system that was imposed on us by the colonialists. These systems were forced on us. It wasn't a choice to be inside of a reservation. It was imposed. We were taken off of the land so that the government could go out there and extract the natural resources. We were a pain in their ass because our people lived free on the land, all over the place. Families lived in areas. Certain families might have hunted deer, some hunted moose over here. For sure we were from the same nation, but we didn't live in these tight reservations. We were forced into those systems. And when we got forced into those systems, it created a lot of infighting inside, you know? And that's what we call lateral damage, you know? Lateral violence. It's just constant because our traditional ways don't work like that. We're not supposed to live like that, as far as we're concerned. As for thousands of years, we were able to survive peacefully for a long time. And we're thrown into these places. So we have to decolonize ourselves. The Indian Act puts us in this situation. Our whole electoral system is developed by the federal government. We have to abide by the federal government's rules. We have to justify how we are going to take care of our people to the federal government. We have to justify every single thing we do to the federal government. We are even numbered. For sure, people can say, well, everybody's got a social insurance number in Canada. Everybody in the US has a social security number. Everybody's numbered in the country, makes sense. But why do we specifically have another number on the side? They're keeping track of us. Because the Indian Act is designed to eliminate us. So they need to keep a close eye and make sure that their process works. They're watching our numbers just crunch down all the time. Because we don't even decide who our community members are. We don't. We get band numbers issued by who? They're not issued by our band councils. They're not issued by our band members. They're issued by the federal government. They decide who our members are. They decide what nation we belong to. How the hell is that autonomy? How the hell is that even a nation if you can't even decide who's a part of your nation? It's ridiculous. These systems are put in place in order to get rid of us. That is the goal. The Indian Act is there to make sure we're gone. They will number us until the day there's only one number left. And if there's only one left, we'll shoot that one because there's going to be no other Native person to fight for that. It's for sure. It's ridiculous. I look at my niece, who's the same blood quantum as my boys. My boys all have their Indigenous rights, according to the federal government. My niece doesn't. It doesn't make sense. Because my sister had a child with a non-Native man. How's that fair? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because we would never do that to ourselves. Would you guys do that to yourselves? Would the Quebec government or the federal government ever say, you know what? They're even American, so therefore it doesn't work anymore. Never. It doesn't make sense. It's because they have a plan behind it, and that's to eliminate us. So we need to break out of that system. We can talk about the problems. So what's the solutions? That's more interesting. That's more difficult. Because we're locked into these systems on the reservation system. Our people now, traditionally, we would have had 7 families in an area, not living in this tight-knit little place. They're living free on the land, doing as they please. Living in peace, respectfully, with everything. And each family would have a representative for themselves, what you would call a chief today. So each family would decide who that chief was. That would be their spokesperson. When there was an issue, when there was something to discuss, any altercations, any big decisions. So those heads of families would sit down and discuss the issues and make a decision that was best for the nation. And they go about their business. But under the Indian Act, we don't have that. Because now it's popularity contest. Every reserve is the same when it comes to that. People vote in people. You can have 5 individuals from the same family on a council of 8 councillors and 1 chief. How's that balanced? It's not. Of course, these problems happen where some families really get ahead and some are always in the gutter. They have no representation. It's not fair. And there's no standards. There's no standards. And I'm not knocking on my people. I'm not knocking on my reserve or any other reserve. I'm not talking bad about those people. This is a system that they're tied down to. It's the system they know. But it doesn't work for us. What happens is we end up fighting with each other all the time. The government puts a little bit of crumbs in the middle of the cage and we fight for it amongst each other. And the whole while we're fighting with each other, the government's just happy because we're not fighting with them. It's perfect, the perfect system. The government has a perfect plan with the Indigenous people. And when something bad goes wrong, when something really bad happens in a community, honestly, who cares? We're 4% of the Canadian population, 25% of the incarcerated population. They don't care about us. They don't. And their actions prove it time and time again. Justin Trudeau. Look what happened with the Supreme Court the other day. They just said no. When you're developing laws, you don't have to consult with the Indigenous people. Only after you make those laws do you have to consult with them. And you're talking about nation to nation. It doesn't make any sense. Trudeau lied through his teeth every minute he spoke. And every minute he speaks. Romeo Saganash said it best. See, I don't even have to repeat that. I don't even have to repeat that. Because Romeo made it quite clear of exactly what was going on there. So, back to the solution. What do we got to do? I think some of the things we can do within our own communities is try and bring back that style of governance where we give each family a chance to be heard. Let them make decisions that's best in the best interest of their families, like everyone else can, and then move forward. Break the chains. This government telling us that we're in a deficit drives me nuts. You hear that crap? They always put in the medias, oh, this community is 200 grand in deficit, so they can't get any funding for housing for the next 5 years. They need a remedial plan. They need to show that they're responsible enough to manage money in their community. What the hell about the last 500 years? What about the retroactive monies that they owe us from resource development for the last 400 or 500 years? They've been making a bundle off our backs. I don't want to mention anything about that though. And you want to talk about the billions of dollars you owe to our people. And you want to tell me that I'm in debt to you for 200 grand? I don't think we owe anyone anything. We don't owe anyone anything. They owe us money. They owe us inclusion. They owe us our say. They owe us the right to be heard. And they need to back the hell off. Always coming in and trying to dictate our lives. And we have to deal with these dictators all the time, because for us it's a dictatorship. It's what it is. I don't see how else you can describe it. Every move we make. And anytime we don't want to listen, they just take the money away. And our band councils have to deal with that. Then our people are mad at the band councils. Where's the money? Well, the government, our own political bodies that are there right now try to defend our cases. Most of the time the government just withholds money. People need the services. Creates more infighting. Government plan works perfect. So we got to break those chains. We have to start making decisions that are in the best interest of each family and work from there. We have to be able to say no. We're just not going to tolerate it. It's hard. Those are hard decisions to make when you're used to a system where your whole life happens in this cage. It's hard to break out of those chains. It really is. Some people just say, "Oh, get over it." Yeah, no, it's not that easy. It's not easy to get over it. When your parents and your grandparents were going to school every day from the time they were 6 years old until they were 17 years old, when they got out of school, going in every day, being raped, being abused, slapped around, told they're no good. They didn't even have the tools as they grew up to be parents. They didn't receive any love. How do you teach it? Even if you do love, it's difficult. It's not that easy. There's a lot of intergenerational trauma. It's real. Blood memory is real. It's for sure. But in order to break those chains, we have to make decisions, hard decisions for ourselves. Which means that we have to throw the big middle finger up to the government. Sometimes we have to say, you know what? Keep your fucking money. We're going to go out and we're going to stop your economic roll. We're going to stop these companies from rolling in on my territory, and raping the land, taking the natural resources out of it, taking the money with it, and then gone to leave us with the battle wounds all over the ground. When they leave, they don't leave us anything. They don't give us anything to go there, and they don't leave us anything after. We're at the point where we have to understand that we got nothing to lose. But they hold those dollars in front of our face all the time. And this is a new world. It's not like before. We can't just live off the land like we used to, because it's a different world. And we want to be able to provide those things. That doesn't mean that we can't hold on to being our nation. It doesn't mean that we have to sacrifice everything that's sacred to us. So we have to find that balance. We have to find that balance between economic growth and cultural sustainability. It's not an easy place to find, but we'll find it. But it takes efforts from everybody, whether it's coming from the federal government, provincial governments, municipalities. I've seen it. My wife works at Bishop's University, and she's the Indigenous Student Support Worker. I don't know if I got all of those, it's a long title. But she's there to support the Indigenous students that go there. And also part of her mandate is to organize events that bring awareness about Indigenous people to the BU community and the rest of the community, the surrounding communities. And in 2 years went from having almost nothing in the area for Indigenous people. The closest, it's Abenaki territory, the closest community is an hour and a half away. And for the first time, all of a sudden, you're seeing Grand Chief Rick Obansuin there to speak on behalf of the people from Odanak, the Abenaki people. He's involved in these things. There's Orange Shirt Day. You see a fleet of 500 people walking down, marching through the roads in Lennoxville, Quebec. You've never seen that before. These people are putting in the efforts on a local level. And it's going to make change. The schools are now opening up their doors and saying, come on in, speak. Speak about your culture. Tell us your story. That's decolonization. It's perfect. It starts from the education all the time. So there's hope. It can happen. But people have to be willing to let it happen. They got to want it to happen. Things that the federal government are doing right now, obviously, I don't have to get into any more detail than that. Romeo already fixed that very good. But, so there's ways that we can decolonize and get better. It's always about the education system. We've got to educate ourselves inside the communities, and we've got to educate the rest of Canadians, Quebecers, the rest of the world about our situation. The information's got to get out there. And we have treaties that are in place. Our people signed treaties from 1725 right to 1779. So there's treaties in place. Our people had agreements with the federal government on how to deal with our people. Well, I can't remember who it was, but I heard him speaking, and it put so much impact on me when he said this. He said, no Native American tribe has ever had the benefit to deal with situations like Germany. Germany went through a terrible war, World War. Terrible things were happening over there, and Canada was involved in stopping what was going on over there. They go over there, and they go to war with Germany, and when they win that war, they helped rebuild it. They put the monies there to put all the infrastructures back into that country to make sure they were a strong nation. Signed treaties with them, and they honored them. Not one Native tribe has had that happen to them. We got run over, torn apart, cultural genocide in the worst ways. And we still don't get that type of support from the federal government here. So it just puts things into perspective that, we're definitely their worst enemies. We're the worst enemies, that's for sure. And I think that our existence is a terrible reminder to everything bad they've done. And that's why they number us and hope to keep limiting our numbers to eliminate us. Not going to happen, though. Not going to happen. Because we have different ways to stand up and fight. We can't physically fight the way we used to because they throw us in jail. Look at the incarceration rates. But we do have hope. We have more and more Indigenous people becoming educated with their system, becoming lawyers and fighting them in that new battlefield. The battlefield is no longer on the grass, hiding behind trees. It's in court. That's where we got to win those battles. And we're winning some slowly, but we don't have enough warriors yet, those type. But we will. Education, education. So one day we'll be in a good position. People gathering just like this, that's education. talk to people, be able to share that information. There's acoustic, there's the acoustic activism. So I was talking to my boys from the Rez Doggz there today. So we're doing something new. It's called acoustic activism. A lot of things we say is just putting out that activism there. We have to be active. We have to fight. We fight in different ways. We have to be smart about it. But decolonization, wrapping it up right there, has to start with educating people and bringing awareness around to the hard facts. And I think that Indigenous and non-Indigenous people have a responsibility to do that together. So, Walalio, thank you very much.
Yeah!